Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty.
Greetings. My name is Leland McGee, and it is with a heavy heart that I bring you this welcome. The events in more than 100 cities across the country are distressing and painful. Dr. Martin Luther King said that this kind of violence is the voice of the unheard. But with each unprovoked loss of a Black soul, my heart aches. That's the backdrop for this year's Juneteenth commemoration of the emancipation of slaves from the state of Texas in 1865, 2 years after the Declaration of Emancipation Proclamation. Over 150 years later, Black Americans continue to struggle for the right to safely sit in their own homes, to walk, jog, and drive in their own communities as freely and comfortably as other Americans, a freedom that often is taken for granted. COVID-19 pulled back the curtain on the ongoing struggle for equity in public health and gave a new meaning to essential. Reorganized social justice matters aim to bring people from all walks of life together in solidarity against inequity and injustice, to model the world that we want to see, to offer an opportunity for all to learn, grow, and fellowship together, to inform, inspire, and engage people in work to heal hearts, and appreciate that all people are essential, work to illuminate a beacon of hope for the day that none of us is regarded as expendable. On behalf of SJM, I welcome you to this year's Juneteenth commemoration and invite you to do work. Share this moment with members of the greater Scotch Plains Fanwood community and let your light shine so that all can see the blessing and goodness that flows through you. Please enjoy the program.
Hi, Mayor Al Smith here, and I just want to wish everyone in the African American community happy Juneteenth. That's the day on June 19th, 1865, when General Granger came to Texas, a few months after the Civil War was over, to announce that the slaves in Texas were free. What a great day that must have been. After years of bondage and repression, to suddenly have freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of religion, freedom to be who you want. Unfortunately, we found out that freedom doesn't necessarily mean equality. And we've come a long way in this country to providing equality for all. But as the last few weeks have shown, we're not there yet, and we have to continue the journey. And I pledge to you on my behalf and behalf of the town council that we will continue the journey, working with groups like Truth, Racial Healing, Transformation, to bring our community together, to make us all feel as one community, all equal, all having the same opportunities. So in closing, let me just say again, happy Juneteenth. Hope to see you around town.
Hi, my name is Colleen Marr, and I am the mayor in the borough of Fanwood. And I've been asked to say a few words about Juneteenth. But I would be remiss if I didn't tell you exactly where I am before I speak. I am standing here at Shady Rest in Scotch Plains after just completing a wonderful, peaceful march organized by the alumni of Scotch Plains Fanwood Black Student Union. Hundreds came out today to remember George Floyd, but to remember all of those whose lives have been senselessly taken from us because of racial injustice. In many ways, Juneteenth represents how freedom and justice in the United States may have been delayed. In post-Civil War era, the freed slaves experienced a wave of lynching and imprisonment as Jim Crow laws took hold across the South. What followed was a disproportionate impact of mass incarceration, discriminatory housing policies, and a lack of economic investment in the Black communities. Now, as national attention remains focused on acts of police violence and racism, it is clear that while progress has been made in Black America 150 years out of bondage, considerable barriers continue to impede the progress. But as President Barack Obama has been known to comment, the arc of history bends towards justice. Let us hope that the public outcry and turmoil that has followed the murder of George Floyd will bring us a step towards the dream of Martin Luther King's beloved community, a society based on justice, equal opportunity, and the love of a fellow human being, where we are all embraced and none are discriminated.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. Well, before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. What is freedom? What does it mean? To newly emancipated men, women, and children, on June 19, 1865, it probably meant the opportunity to live a life of dignity, free from the burden of forced labor, an opportunity for their children and grandchildren to have a place at the American table where liberty and justice for all is the centerpiece, and for their voice to be recognized and heard as a country in turmoil worked to repair and rebuild after the system of forced enslavement finally came to an end. However, over 150 years later, the idea of freedom and what it means for many of our citizens is challenged. The roots of an unjust system that was started over 400 years ago are embedded in many areas of our society. Our Juneteenth theme of African Americans, emancipation, and freedom, with a target focus on political freedom, reminds us that while some changes have been made and victories have been won, there is still much work for us to do. On this day, remember, educate, and reflect. Remember those whose freedom was never realized. Educate yourself and others to understand and accept a hurtful past so that the chains of systemic racism can be broken. And reflect on the ideals of liberty and justice so that all Americans can truly be free.
Hi, my name is Al Mirabella, and I'm the Scotch Plains Township Manager as well as the Chairman of the Union County Board of Chosen Freeholders. It's an honor to join you in this virtual celebration of Juneteenth. Historians have called Juneteenth a turning point that is second only to the Declaration of Independence in our growth from a colonial outpost to a shining beacon of modern democracy. And yet, throughout our long history of Juneteenth, year by year and generation by generation, all too often that light has been dimmed under the shadow of the past. And so this Juneteenth, I'm proud and grateful to the people of Scotch Plains and in Union County, most of them quite young, who are coming together, stepping up, standing up, and reaching up to throw off that veil and let the line shine brighter than ever before. Juneteenth is a time to celebrate achievement, and I can think of no greater achievement than the movement that we've witnessed over the past 2 weeks. It is clear that this is a moment of change, deep and permanent change that's upon us. Now more than ever, we are called upon to gather strength in the face of adversity and join in a unity of purpose despite those who would tear us apart. It has been inspirational to see thousands of Scotch Plains and Union County residents join this national movement in communities representing every corner of our township and our county. east to west and north to south. As challenging as these past weeks have been, I know that we have had a chance to gather strength to weather this test and emerge with a renewed determination for equal work, equal justice, equal opportunity, and equal dignity. My colleagues in the township and on the Freeholder Board have made our position very clear. We must never relax our guard against racism and injustice in any form. And so this Juneteenth, I strongly affirm our position and support the people of all ages and stages of life and communities here in Scotch Plains and in Union County and across our nation who are coming together peacefully to raise their voices in the cause for equal justice and equality. They are the true patriots and the inspiration for all who work in the cause of democracy. This Juneteenth, let us celebrate the reawakening of the American ideal and look forward to the promise of the future. Thank you.
Freedom to me is the opportunity to do what I want, when I want. When I look up the word in the dictionary for freedom, it states the absence of necessity, coercion, or constraint in choice or action. But the second one states liberation from slavery or restraint or from the power of another. In 1862, the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. However, all slaves were not freed until 1865. Juneteenth is also known as Freedom Day. However, as I stated last year, when I showed up for the celebration, I felt ignorant that I never knew what Juneteenth stood for. I think that as a whole, we have to get this into our curriculum so that people know what actually occurred. And also, I'm a history person, and I just try to bring myself back to that time. If I'm a slave and I know that everyone else is free, and I'm not, what was going through their mind? And that, to me, that story needs to be told. So I think we need to celebrate Juneteenth, and we have to get this word out more so that people understand it. I think we have to get it into the schools. And any way I could help with that, be more than welcome to. And I could only hope that we'll be able to celebrate Juneteenth this year together, hoping that some of the guidelines are changed because of the pandemic.
Hi, I want to thank everybody for giving me a chance to speak on Juneteenth and what freedom means to me. Freedom, I think nowadays, is something that's very often taken for granted. Sometimes we forget truly how valuable it is to be free. Many people don't understand, like, haven't experienced what it's like to be in a communist country in like China or Cuba or Russia until some of these things that have recently happened. COVID-19 is something that I think has taught all of us how very important it means to just be able to go out to a store and buy what you want, to be able to just go take a walk, be with your friends. That's the freedom that we have taken for granted, and I hope, and I think it's an awakening. I think everybody's starting to realize that that's something that we can't just take for granted. We need to keep that, and we need to make sure that that carries on forever. And we were just reminded of this not too long ago, recently, about a Memorial Day celebration of all the men and women who gave their lives so that we can be free and we can live a life like we do. Don't ever forget them and their families and the sacrifices they made, and realize what a great country we live in. I ask you really to take a minute once in a while and just reflect and think about how important it is to truly be free and to make sure that we never waste something like that and we keep that for generations to come. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Joan Mast and I am the Superintendent of Schools here in Scotch Plains, Fanwood. It is truly my honor to be part of this Juneteenth celebration and to share with you what I think freedom means in our schools. In our schools, freedom means that all students and their families have access to every aspect of our system from kindergarten to grade 12. I believe that freedom ensures the following: that all students are in the care of teachers who recognize and nurture their full potential. That all students have access and are encouraged to participate in a range of programs, especially gifted and talented classes, honors and advanced placement classes, choral and instrumental ensembles, sports teams, and extracurricular opportunities. All students feel like they are uniquely brilliant and loved members of our school community where their voices are heard. All students feel safe and they feel like they're treated fairly. All students graduate prepared to pursue their passions, achieve their dreams, and to contribute in making our world a better place as empowered and productive citizens. For this Juneteenth, I am renewing my commitment to ensure that all students experience these freedoms. I will support our community and our schools in ongoing conversations to better understand our individual roles and commitments in eradicating racism and to ensure freedom as I just described it for all students. Thank you for this opportunity to be with you here today.
I had reasoned this out in my mind. There was one of two things I had a right to, liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would have the other. For no man should take me alive. I should fight for my liberty as long as my strength lasted. And when the time came for me to go, the Lord would let them take me. Harriet Tubman, freedom fighter, late 19th century. Surrounded by loving parents and a loving interracial community, but even though surrounded by love and respect, I knew that as a dark-skinned girl, the world viewed me as less than. I knew that even with my straight A report card, I was judged as less than by my teachers and classmates. Up until perhaps my senior year in high school, I was content. I understood I was Black, and to be Black was to be inferior. Enter into my life the autobiography of Malcolm X. After reading the book, I began to understand race as a construction, as a means to an end, as a deliberate invention with the goal of relegating society to those who matter and those who do not, for political and economic and cultural gain, don't matter quite as much. Malcolm writes, quote, "If white Americans could accept the oneness of God, then perhaps, too, they could accept in reality the oneness of man and cease to measure and hinder and harm others in terms of their differences in their color." So I was given 3 to 5 minutes to explain what political freedom means to me. And simply put, political freedom is the recognition of the oneness of humankind and following the golden rule, doing unto others as you would do unto yourself, which to me is true freedom and is what I try to practice. Question. Members of a race can be identified by their A, blood group, B, skin color, C, ancestry, D, genes, E, all of the above, F, none of the above. Again, members of a race can be identified by their blood group, skin color, ancestry, genes, all of the above, none of the above. The answer is none of the above. There are no traits, no characteristics, not even one gene that distinguishes all members of one so-called race from all members of another. The A, B, O blood groups can be found in all the world's peoples. Skin color tends to correspond with latitude, not race. Ancestry is difficult to trace. Go back 30 generations, less than 1,000 years, and you have 1 billion ancestors. So why does race dominate our interactions? Toni Morrison said, quote, "White slave owners believed that their slaves were savage animals in order to justify their own inhumane behavior," end of quote. I'm adding their own inhumane behavior for the reward of power. And that is a good part of why we find ourselves in the position we are in today, Juneteenth 2020. Let us go back 401 years ago, where the practice of necropolitics began. Obviously, necropolitics is a 21st century term, but it is a centuries-old practice used in the creations of what would become the United States of America. It all began with 1619. Necropolitics is the use of social and political power to dictate how some people may live and how some people must die. In 1619, some 20-odd Negroes, this is a quote, landed in Virginia, and few ships before or since have unloaded a more momentous cargo, according to historian and journalist Lerone Bennett, who wrote this in his 1962 book, Before the Mayflower, A History of the Negro in America. The 20 were the survivors of what started out as slave cargo of 350 from Angola. They may not have been the first Africans to arrive, and they may not have been slaves or indentured servants. But why we have what may be the most definitive information about them and the subsequent generations of their families. And that is important because what happened to them, necropolitically speaking, is the construction of a society that divides us as black and white, free and slave. Between 1619 and 1662, when slave laws began to appear and race was being constructed in support of slavery, that would in turn support the triangle trade that became the successful venture that allowed Western capitalism to grow and hence make the United States of America one of the wealthiest nations to ever exist. In 1863, as the tide of the Civil War, a war that would change with the Northern victory at Gettysburg, the Emancipation Proclamation was issued that would dismantle legalized slavery and conquered territory. Forward another 3 years before the news of emancipation reached the enslaved in the state of Texas. The announcement in Texas produced the holiday we know as Juneteenth. So I'm thinking of the events of today, really of these past weeks. My heart aches. It seems that 1866 was too early a date to celebrate emancipation, for we are in the midst of another era when there are multiple reminders of the racism that permeates our society and that let us know emancipation really isn't quite here yet. Let me add that the events in Minnesota are dominating the media and hence our personal conversations, but I want us to remember and examine what happened in Central Park involving two individuals with the name of Cooper. We have two of the best and brightest of our society, a liberal white woman who voted for Barack Obama twice using the race card. In my mind, what happened there is a more frightening act. And if I had more than my 3 to 5 minutes, which I'm sure are already up, I would go into with much more depth with you about that. But you'll have to figure it out on your own. I'm sorry. I weighed carefully what I would say to you. And I'm sorry I could not be more upbeat, more celebratory in my remarks. What I do find worthy of this celebration, particularly with you, is that you have chosen as an interracial group to recognize Juneteenth. What is positive is that you are striving to move towards that oneness that Malcolm X talked about over 55 years ago. And I applaud you for that. And that is something to celebrate. Keep up your good work. It is needed now, perhaps more than ever before. I will close with these words from Langston Hughes. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free. The land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me. Who made America? Whose sweat and blood? Whose faith and pain? Whose hand at the foundry? Whose plow in the rain? must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me an ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again. America. Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath. America will be. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Councilman Rashawn Rockwhite, and I would like to wish everyone a happy Juneteenth celebration. On this day, in 1865, 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, General Gordon Granger arrived in Texas and emancipated the remaining 250,000 plus African American slaves. Today is an opportunity to remind Americans on the contribution and sacrifice the African Americans have made, and also to remind ourselves of our past, striving for access, opportunity, and to be represented fairly and justly. So please, join me in celebrating the day all African Americans were set free. Stay safe and be healthy. God bless you all.
Hello, I am Mary Clowney. I was asked to talk to you about what freedom meant to me. Freedom means that I am able to travel any place that I want to travel, sleep in any hotel I want to sleep in, eat in any restaurant I want to eat in, and live in any town or any neighborhood that I want to live in. Freedom means that there were people many years ago who walked and demonstrated for our rights. I was a student at South Carolina State in 1962. The NAACP and some of the black ministers in the neighborhood organized the students at South Carolina State College and Claflin College so that we were able to march on the city of Orangeburg. We marched into the street and down the neighborhood where the jail was located. Upon arriving at the jail, there were policemen with water hoses. We were guided into the jail and fingerprinted. We were placed into the cell with people who had committed crimes. They were real criminals. There were about 30 of us in one cell. The girls were kept in Orangeburg, South Carolina, and the boys were sent off to Columbia, South Carolina. After leaving the jail, we stayed at the armory for about 2 weeks. At nighttime, some of the girls would cry because they were afraid. They gave us grits and big slices of bread for breakfast. And if we behaved ourselves during the day and didn't sing too much, they gave us an apple at night. After the demonstration, we were able to go to some of the places in Orangeburg, but not everywhere. It still took some more years. After I moved here to New Jersey, I found that there were still some difficulties, but not nearly as bad as the South. Freedom means that we as members of this wonderful country, citizens of this wonderful country, neighbors of this wonderful country, that we can do whatever we want, when and where we want. We can go to different schools, restaurants, and hotels, and we should feel safe. If we move into a neighborhood, we still should feel safe. However, sometimes we don't get the respect that we should as a member of the human race. And that's what we are, members of the human race, and deserve to be able to do the things that we want to because our forefathers fought for our freedom. Thank you, and I hope I gave you something to think about.
What is freedom? Freedom is the ability to be who you want to be or be who you are without fear of facing ridicule, harm, or even being killed. Freedom is being treated the same way as the next person and not because of the color of your skin. Freedom is equality. Freedom is fair. Freedom is our human right.
I believe freedom is a world where everyone can go on a run. I believe freedom is a world where everyone can write a check. I believe freedom is a world where everyone can hold their loved ones' hands without being scared. I believe freedom is a world where Rosa Parks should be proud of the progress and justice instaured. But not everyone can go on a run, not everyone can write a check, and not everyone can hold their loved ones' hands fearlessly, and Rosa Parks would be disappointed. Yet I still believe that we can make Rosa Parks proud if we continuously work on restoring justice and freedom.
My name is Josh Lasardo. I'm the Deputy Mayor of Scotch Plains and a member of Social Justice Matters. Freedom means to me the rights of an individual to express themselves, the right of an individual to challenge their government. It's because of our individual freedoms that our country becomes better over time. And Social Justice Matters is an organization that preserves freedom and inspires others to call out injustices where they see it, to make our community better.
Being free is waking up every morning and not being at a disadvantage because of the color of my skin. It's getting the same rights as other people of other races, no matter what, having the same job opportunities, the same healthcare benefits, the same education as other races get that I don't because I'm African American. Being free is being able to walk up and down the street and not get judged because my skin is darker than others. Being free is being able to protest peacefully and not get attacked because I'm fighting for what I believe in.
Hi, my name is Lucas Mackey, and I believe freedom is the opportunity to enact your given natural rights. This opportunity does not come at a cost of any other human right that you have, or at the cost of anyone else's freedom. No government official or human should be able to strip you of these rights, and you should hold no power to strip anyone else of these rights.
Hello, I'm Annie R. Lucas with the Union County Club National Association of Negro Business and Professional Women's Clubs Incorporated and Social Justice Matters. What is freedom to me? Well, let's start from the past and bring it to the present. Freedom to drink from any water fountain I choose. Freedom to sit any place on a bus or train. To move into a neighborhood of my choosing. To use the front door if I choose and not the rear door. Freedom to stay in any hotel that is my preference. Freedom to use a public, private bathroom and not between two car doors squatting on a road. Freedom to worship as I choose. And most of all, freedom to vote in an election. My vote is my vote. Freedom are my thoughts, my actions, my independence, my inalienable rights. That is freedom to me.
What freedom means to me is being able to walk around being me and not being profiled. What freedom means to me is being equal and having the same rights as other people. To me, freedom is doing the things I love without getting followed or judged because of my skin color. And that is what freedom means to me.
Hi, my name is Ryan Jones and I'm a junior at Scotch Plains Fanwood High School. Freedom to me is being able to go outside or anywhere else without being mistreated or harassed. It's having the ability to be unique and change without restraint. I'm entitled to my own opinions and beliefs, and so are you. No one should be able to take that away from you. Too many people feel the need to fit in, which leads them to go astray from their true self, and that's not freedom.
Start.
Hi everybody, happy Juneteenth. I'm very happy to participate in this series of readings and discussions and thoughts about freedom. I have chosen to read an excerpt from The Gates of Freedom, a Passover Haggadah. The Haggadah is the book that Jews read at Passover, and it's the telling of the story of the Jewish escape from slavery in Egypt to freedom and the beginnings of the establishment of Jewish people as a distinct people. In this Haggadah, we talk about the escape from Mitzrayim, which can be translated either as Egypt, so it's physical slavery, or narrow places, which speaks to psychological slavery and the way in which we put ourselves into narrow places. So the segment that I'm going to read, and this is how God, my family uses for Passover, is actually a segment from Frederick Douglass, and it's called To Struggle for Freedom. Covey at length let me go, puffing and blowing at a great rate, saying that if I had not resisted, he would not have whipped me half so much. The truth was that he had not whipped me at all. I considered him as getting entirely the worst end of the bargain, for he had drawn no blood from me, but I had from him. The whole 6 months afterwards that I spent with Mr. Covey, he never laid the weight of his finger upon me. This battle with Mr. Covey was the turning point of my career as a slave. It rekindled the few expiring embers of freedom and revived within me a sense of my own manhood. It was a glorious resurrection from the tomb of slavery to the heaven of freedom. And so on this Juneteenth, let us celebrate not only the physical freedom from slavery, but the psychological freedom from slavery as well.
Hi, my name is Sebastian. Freedom is the benefit that we have to talk and to speak and to give our own opinion about something without someone to be against it. In my life, freedom has played an important role in my life because when I grew up and I became a teenager, my parents gave me more freedom to go out, to, for example, going out to school and going out with my friends. I start doing my own things and having more freedom going out, and because those are things that we were not able to do when we were little kids. So that's my opinion about freedom.
So what is freedom? I believe that freedom is when people are looked at the same no matter what they look like or how they may act or what could be different about them. Whether it's a group of people or just one person. I also believe freedom is when you are able to walk down the street without being looked at differently by other people, and you are accepted wherever you go, unless it's like a religious place. I also believe that freedom means you are able to believe in whatever you want.
Hi, I'm Pam Brooks, and I'm a member of Social Justice Matters. When asked, what does freedom mean to me, I reflected on my everyday life. I have the freedom to walk in my neighborhood and receive smiles and waves from people I've never even met before. I can venture further afield, confident that my presence will be welcomed or at least tolerated, and the knowledge that a 911 call, if I ever need to make one, is there to protect and serve me. I can ramble through parks and enjoy nature undisturbed by others. You might call these liberties freedom, but only once my individual liberties and opportunities are equally shared by my fellow Americans, regardless of skin color or ancestry, can I truthfully rename my privilege as freedom. Freedom for me is the equal sharing of rights and responsibilities among all Americans.
To me, freedom means being able to be open with who you truly are inside and being able to talk about your emotions and talk about who you want to be without being harmed or threatened or judged for that. Freedom can also mean being able to live in a society where everyone is allowed to be different, and being different shouldn't change the way others view you as a person. To me, political freedom means being able to stand up for your rights and others' rights without the government pushing you down and disregarding your statements. Political freedom means that you are allowed to tell others and speak up about prejudice and bias in our society and try to change what is happening. Because political freedom should mean that we can do that stuff. We could be able to reach out and speak up. Our voices should matter. And coming from a minority, coming from a household where everyone has different views upon things, you start to learn that not everyone's going to think the same way you do. But that shouldn't mean someone is getting harmed in the process. I should be able to speak up and stand for what I believe is right without that feeling of being pulled down deep inside. So that's what freedom means to me. Thank you.
Freedom to me means that everyone has human and civil rights and are treated properly no matter where they came from, their skin color, religion, etc. Freedom means that everyone can express their beliefs in an appropriate and civil manner. However, I do not believe that is currently the case in this country. I will never understand what it's like to be black in America and the extra precautions black people have to take. And although I am afforded white privilege and do not have to worry about experiencing police brutality, racism, or injustice, freedom to me will never be achieved until all people of color have the same privileges and freedoms that my family and I have. While this is probably unrealistic, we must try to achieve this so that everyone can have the same freedoms. And one real way to do that is to continue to use our voices and the right to peaceful protest for a better America.
What freedom means to me. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice and pure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for life, United States of America. That's freedom to me.
To me, freedom means to be able to walk around without being judged by the color of my skin, to walk out of my house every day with my family, not being seen as targets, and for our voices to be heard every time a racist act occurs.
In my opinion, what freedom is to me is being able to leave my house without worrying whether I'm going to not be able to return, and being able to walk in a neighborhood without looking differently and not being judged because of the clothes I'm wearing because of my skin color.
Hello, my name is Matthew Scolar. I'm a 17-year-old high school senior at Scotch Plains Fanwood High School, and I'm also a member of Social Justice Matters. And this Juneteenth, we're here to talk about what freedom means to us. So to me, freedom means that not only do all people have the ability to make choices for themselves, but they also have the ability to live a life of dignity. We look at some of the history in this country, some of it great, but some of it not so great. And oftentimes we see that for some groups, it's harder to achieve this freedom. And the concept of freedom is not always something that they feel is attainable for themselves. So this Juneteenth, what I'm encouraging people to think of and to do is to foster empowerment within their own communities. This means that we stand in solidarity with each other, regardless of what the situation might be. We have to relinquish some of the power that we might have that comes with some of our own privileges and give it to people that might have less privileges and might be more disadvantaged than ourselves. We have that opportunity as a community of leaders and I mean really any community member. We can all foster empowerment with each other by recognizing our own privileges and then giving that power to somebody who might not have those same privileges.
Hi, I'm Joan Peters, and I am the current president of Social Justice Matters. We were asked to speak about freedom because that is what Juneteenth represents. Sadly, however, in the last weeks and months, tragedy after tragedy has shown us again that not all citizens are free to do what they enjoy, free to travel unmolested, free to make a mistake without dying for it, free to vote without obstacles, and finally free to just be part of humanity. More and more I realize the unearned advantages that I have in the land of the free, when so many African Americans who have done far more than I are denied the same advantages. I hope Juneteenth has become an inspiring day for you and that you will join us.
Freedom to me means being able to use your voice in an uninhibited, unfiltered way, whether that means by writing something or speaking your voice loudly at a protest or even exercising your use of the right to vote. That to me is like freedom in its basest, most pure form. So I think that's super important, especially considering everything going on in the world today.
Hi, my name is Jill Jackson Jones and I am a Kramer Manor Fanwood resident. I've been a Fanwood resident for over 40 years. I am also a member of Social Justice Matters. And what does freedom mean to me? Freedom means the ability to exercise my right to vote. I have the right to vote for any political candidate at the local and national level that's in alignment with my morals and my values and what I feel should occur at the national and local level. My ancestors fought really hard for me as a black woman to vote. And I feel that I need to continue, I'm obligated to continue that legacy. In addition, I have the opportunity and the right to speak up about voting and the importance of my black community to come out and register and vote. We can make impact in numbers. Thank you.
Freedom, especially in today's American political climate, it means a lot to our citizens. Because everyone's granted a lot of rights and liberties, and it's a big responsibility for our American citizens to act upon exercising all these freedoms and rights in the correct manner. Freedom means essentially to have to act out on your rights and liberties and not have little to no restraint. And it means a lot to our people because, especially with what's happening today, we need to act out in our with our freedoms and rights.
I'm Anthony Carter, young man born, raised in Newark, New Jersey, over 50 years ago. 25 years or so ago, moved into the Scotch Plains Fanwood community, welcomed. And in my time here, I've continued to be welcomed. So when I speak about I or me, I need most of us to understand that I'm really speaking about we. But the I is just putting a face to the we. Yes, some of us have been oppressed. Yes, some of us have faced ridicule, criticism, injustices. It has happened, and we can't deny it. But as I stand here today, I can tell you that I have my mayor over there who I love, Mayor Marvin Fanwood, personal relationship with. Freeholder Al Mirabella, who I love, personal relationship with. And in conversation with them, I understand and I know and I can give some sort of assurances that we are moving forward. But they understand that we need to move forward at a more tempered pace as opposed to the measured pace. But they cannot do it alone either. So I call on their colleagues to also pick up the join the charge. Let's move this entire nation starting in our local community. Let's move us all forward together. And I can give you my telephone number, 646-335-2509. If I treat you like a telemarketer, forgive me, but I will return the call. So let's arm ourselves with education. To all of my young ones and even my older ones, education. Give yourself the opportunity through education. Because when these scopes of work are written for these job descriptions, usually and quite often, college degree is the first thing on that list. So if you need some direction, if you've been out of school for a while and you need direction on how to get yourself started again, I gave out my phone number. Come see me. And when I say me, I mean us. We'll do it together. This is not me standing alone. Again, I'm putting a face to this. But I have a huge swath of individuals and entities that do listen. We'll take our comments. We'll take our compliments. We'll take our great intentions, and we'll put those into action. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. We'll get home peacefully.
Welcome to Kramer Manor. Kramer was a realtor from New York. He used to come to Fenwood on a train and walk all the way to Lincoln Avenue in Fenwood over my aunt's house to sell property. I purchased my property from Kramer, and he would only sell to blacks. My aunt's house had a well, and that was the only water we had in Kramer Manor. If you wanted water, you had to go up to Martine Avenue. We had no water here. We had outhouses. To be free, I feel that I could live any place that I care to in the United States. I call that being free. At this time, we are a diverse neighborhood. Thank you. God bless you. My name is Elwood Green.
June 19th, 1865. We celebrate this date as Juneteenth, the day that 3.5 million enslaved African lives were officially declared as free. But can the lives of African descent today honor and celebrate freedom in a comfortable way? For over 400 years, we never stopped fighting for justice and equality. Through generations, as Black people, we have never enjoyed our freedom comfortably. Black people have never been comfortable since the Emancipation Proclamation. So Juneteenth gives us a moment to engage as a unit in more than celebration. Juneteenth lets us reflect on how we have come from a long ways. We look back and wonder how our people triumphed through traumatic slavery days. Memoirs and photos and even videos captured moments of time. But through a filter, compare them to today's images and the similarities cannot be denied. George Floyd's modern-day lynching reminds us of the strange fruits of Jim Crow, and the worldwide protests of his death prove that we still have a long way to go. Compare today's images of policing with the civil rights era and you will see the same. Compare the images of poverty in urban areas and you'll see not much has changed. We can do the math, see. There have been over 400 years of slavery, not even 200 years since its end. And if we do not make internal and external changes in our community, it may be more than 400 years before our people are free and comfortable again. Comfortable in our community, like kings and queens meeting our own demands. Comfortable in our own homes, in our own businesses, on our well-deserved lands. Comfortable like royalty, and comfortable in our skin. Comfortably celebrating our beauty and the shades of our melanin. Comfortable freedom as our ancestors envisioned when they celebrated on Juneteenth. We deserve to realize our freedom, comfortable freedom. We deserve more than a dream. Leaders of the civil rights era lit the torch to guide the next generation's journey. But almost 60 years later, we're still fighting for racial justice and equality. And even though carrying the torch can be physically and mentally exhausting, imagine how our ancestors felt knowing their dreams for their freedom was for us and for them quite daunting. They did their part and carried the torch for us to take to the next level of our race. And at this point, we should be running this marathon with dignity and grace. And that's why Juneteenth is important to our community. We have the moment to pay homage to our ancestors respectfully. I know, like you know, the barriers that prevent us from comfortability as we have targets on our backs every day. We should not have to, but we must continue to fight for the comfortable freedoms we deserve in every single way. We deserve to be comfortable at school, at work, while shopping, while jogging, while driving, while praying, sleeping, playing, and while walking. Every day we must take action and remember the way Black lives were slain. And every day we should remember the sacrifice of our ancestors so that their progress is not in vain. Yes, we can unite in the fight with others and still protest for racial harmony and justice. But we must also unite as sisters and brothers in carrying our torch and keeping it lit. Let's revisit our agenda and every day work to realize our dream. Let's celebrate our accomplishments and honor every day and every Juneteenth. Thank you.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea.
Sing our song, full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing our song, full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Sing our song, fill of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing our song, full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory